Welcome to the Bald Brad Show. In today's episode, we're going to be examining the January 6th footage that was released by Tucker Carlson on Fox News the other day. I have not seen this footage, so you're going to get real-time commentary and opinions from me. Before we jump into everything, make sure you head over to our brand new website, baldbrad.com, which is a one-stop shop for y'all. Link is in the description. You can catch our podcast there. You can watch our YouTube videos, read our blog posts. We got it all for you. And if you didn't hear the big reveal over the weekend, we also got a book launching March 13th on Amazon as well as Barnes & Noble's titled Trojan Horse, How the Left is Destroying America. Folks, this book completely obliterates and destroys the progressive left and the Democrat Party's ideology, because it is their ideology that is going to destroy this country from the inside out, much in the same way of how the Greeks sent in the Trojan horse during the Trojan War to destroy Troy from the inside out. The progressive left's ideology is going to do the same thing with the United States unless we recognize it and equip ourselves with the information we need to dismantle and destroy their narrative, their ideology, and the book does just that. If you love Ben Shapiro, Michael Knowles, Andrew Klavan, Matt Walsh, the guys from the Daily Wire, if you love Charlie Kirk, Sean Hannity, Tucker Carlson, all the big conservatives, Republicans, you're going to love this book, folks. It's a must read. You could buy the ebook now and pre-order a paperback and hardcover version as well by heading over to Barnes & Noble's or Amazon or clicking the link on our website. Make sure you pre-order yourself a book today. Again, it releases March 13th. And if that wasn't enough, we also got a store here for y'all. We got merch. If you go again to our store on baldbrad.com, you can get yourself a t-shirt right now. These shirts are awesome. They're awesome quality, and they look really sick, folks. We got our own image. We got our own setup. We got mugs. We got hats. We got stickers. We got hoodies. We got it all, folks. Head over to baldbrad.com if you haven't already. Get yourself the book. Get yourself some merchandise, some swagger, and look good and look like an American patriot, because let's be honest, folks, Bald Brad Show viewers are American patriots, and we uphold the values of this great nation. Again, head over to baldbrad.com or get yourself a copy at Amazon or Barnes & Noble's. Your help and support would be greatly appreciated. And with that being said, our first segment of the day is the footage itself that was released by Tucker Carlson. Now, he got 40,000 hours of footage, of which we've only seen a few clips that were being repeated by these media outlets in the Democrat Party for literally 2 years, which means that we haven't seen 99.9% of footage of what actually took place on January 6th, meaning they were pushing an extreme narrative utilizing outliers. And I'll give you an example of what I'm already seeing on the screen right now. Again, I haven't seen this before. There's these idiots here that may or may not have voted for Trump. They may or may not be Republicans, have no idea. They're still idiots because they're breaking windows and they're doing things they shouldn't be doing. They deserve to go to jail and they deserve to be fined so that can all be replaced and fixed and it's not coming out of taxpayer dollars. They're idiots. Now, not everybody stormed the Capitol. The vast majority did not storm the Capitol. The vast majority did not vandalize things. So they pushed an extreme narrative utilizing outliers. And we see this time and time again from the Democrat Party and the progressive left. They'll sit there and use outliers and make that seem like it's a representation of the data set as a whole. In the same way here is they used a few video clips out of the 40,000 hours of footage, a few selected clips to push a narrative that there is these insurrectionists that were trying to take over the government, vandalizing, harassing, and hurting police officers, doing all these crazy things, of which, again, I agree, shouldn't be doing, should go to jail. They're idiots. They're knuckleheads. Can't be more clear about it. But the vast majority were not doing that. And I'm sure this is what Tucker's going to show here. The vast majority was just peaceful. People probably walking around taking photos, right? Being escorted probably by Capitol Police or being told to leave by Capitol Police. Let's see what he has to say here, or at least show.
These are the pictures you've seen of January 6th. They're familiar because they've been playing on a loop on every media outlet in America for the last 2 years. There's a reason for that. But it turns out there's quite a bit of video you haven't seen. And that video tells a very different story about what happened on January 6th. More than 40,000 hours of surveillance footage from in and around.
Look at that. Let's just go back real quick here. Hold on a second. Well, the one that guy's
More than
cleaning stuff up.
40,000
But look at this guy. They're just having conversations with people. One guy's on his phone, right, wearing a suit, probably works in the Capitol. You got the Capitol Police there. You got police officers. Guy has his hands in his pockets just shooting the crap with them. Like, yeah, you know, this is pretty crazy, huh? Like, we're standing here. Nobody's kicking us out. Nothing's really happening. God, can you believe the Democrats fraudulently pushing stuff in the election? You know, whatever it may be, it's freaking nothing's happening. But, you know, totally contradicts the footage that we just saw and that we have seen for the last 2 years from the Democrat Party.
Hours of surveillance footage from in and around the Capitol have been withheld from the public. And once you see the video, you'll understand why. Taken as a whole, the video record does not support the claim that January 6th was an insurrection. In fact, it demolishes that claim. And that's exactly why the Democratic Party and its allies in the media prevented you from seeing it.
Now, if you thought that the government was being overran by a bunch of MAGA supporters or ultra MAGA supporters, according to Joe Biden, wouldn't you see all those people in suits and police sprinting and running, all hell's breaking loose, but you don't see any of that? Again, you would only see it from maybe a few selected clips. It's just amazing the lies that's been going on for 2 years, but we've been calling it out. We knew it was happening.
By controlling the images you were allowed to view from January 6th, they controlled how the public understood that day. They could lie about what happened, and you would never know the difference. Those lies had a purpose. They created a pretext for a federal crackdown on opponents of the Uniparty in Washington.
Our office wanted to ensure that there was shock and awe, that we could charge as many people as possible.
The first thing you notice from viewing the full video record of January 6th is just how many people entered the Capitol building that day. Hundreds and hundreds of people, possibly thousands, over the course of about 2 hours. The crowd was enormous. A small percentage of them were hooligans. They committed vandalism. You've seen their pictures again and again. But the overwhelming majority weren't. They were peaceful. They were orderly and meek. These were not insurrectionists. They were sightseers. Footage from inside the Capitol overturns the story you've heard about January 6th. Protesters queue up in neat little lines. They give each other tours outside the Speaker's office. They take cheerful selfies and they smile. They're not destroying the Capitol. They obviously revere the Capitol. They're there because they believe the election was stolen from them. They believe in the system. Here's the man you've heard referred to as the QAnon Shaman outside the Senate chamber. These are not rioters. These are people who wandered over from a political rally.
We will not let them silence your voices.
After the rally, they walked down Pennsylvania Avenue, where organizers had secured a federal permit to hold a legal rally on the grounds of the Capitol.
I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices.
Again, that's the part that they love to leave out. The man said peacefully. You're going to have some idiots out there that didn't want to do things peacefully, wanted to break windows, wanted to do things they shouldn't do. Again, I can't emphasize this enough. They were idiots. The vast majority weren't. They went there. They had a permit, okay? But none of this is going to be pushed by the Democrat Party because they have a narrative. They have a narrative that we're all racist, bigots, sexist, homophobes, whatever all this nonsense is here. Although we're just American patriots that love this country. We wanted the man to stay in office. Clearly he didn't. Life goes on. But no, life can't go on because they have to lie to everybody and push this narrative. And that's why it's been going on for 2 years. It will go on for another 2 years. Now we're called ultra MAGA, extremists, terrorists, all this other nonsense here. But again, the man said peaceful. Very clear.
Heard.
Once at the Capitol building, things began to get chaotic. Capitol police officers fired tear gas into the crowd. A few at the front of the herd broke windows. Someone opened the doors, and many hundreds of others just walked in.
They're going to make that the story.
Of course, they did make it the story. And at the center of it, the single most famous person arrested that day was a Navy veteran from Arizona called Jacob Chansley, often referred to as the QAnon Shaman.
The so-called QAnon Shaman. QAnon Shaman.
Someone named Q Shaman.
Jacob Chansley became the face of January 6th, a dangerous conspiracy theorist dressed in outlandish costume who led the violent insurrection to overthrow American democracy. For these crimes, Chansley was sentenced to nearly 4 years in prison, far more time than many violent criminals now receive. What did Jacob Chansley do to receive this punishment? To this day, there is dispute over how Chansley got into the Capitol building. But according to our review of the internal surveillance video, it is very clear what happened once he got inside. Virtually every moment of his time inside the Capitol was caught on tape. The tapes show that Capitol Police never stopped Jacob Chansley. They helped him. They acted as his tour guides. Here's video of Chansley in the Senate chamber. Capitol Police officers take him to multiple entrances and even try to open locked doors for him. We counted at least 9 officers who were within touching distance of unarmed Jacob Chansley. Not one of them even tried to slow him down. Chansley understood that Capitol Police were his allies. Video shows him giving thanks for them in a prayer on the floor of the Senate. Watch.
Thank you, Heavenly Father, for giving the inspiration needed police officers to allow us in this building.
Contrast the reality of what Jacob Chansley did in the Capitol building on January 6th, the indisputable facts recorded on video, some of which has never before been seen, with the depiction of Jacob Chansley that you've seen in the media for more than 2 years. He's a terrorist, they said. He should be killed.
Shoot him. Yeah. Shoot him. Like, you burst into the United States, if he was dressed like bin Laden, would you have shot him?
Shoot him. Shoot him.
It's amazing. Just listen to that narrative and just listen to what I have to say for one moment here. The guy's unarmed and they're saying to shoot him. But yet when the same thing happens with police officers shooting unarmed black men or just any person, they lose their ish over. They literally, he's contradicting the whole narrative of, we'll just shoot an unarmed person, of which you spent years burning down cities because people were shot by police officers and they may or may not have been unarmed, or like George Floyd, unarmed and still died. I would disagree with the hands of a police officer, even though he shouldn't have kept his knee on his neck for that long. There's a massive amount of drugs in his blood system. That's regardless of what we're talking about here. The whole purpose of me bringing that up is, again, the guy just said to shoot an unarmed person because he entered the Capitol. I don't agree with what this guy did, by the way, but to shoot the guy is a little bit nuts.
Him. It makes you wonder, who are the violent extremists here? Not Jacob Chansley, and the video proves that. But you would never have known from the media coverage.
The people sitting in the chairs need to be sitting in a jail cell.
Chansley is in a jail cell. He's been there for months. If he was in fact committing such a grave crime, why didn't the officers who were standing right next to him place him under arrest? Until now, no one could even prove that even happened. But it did.
Again, and there's going to be more footage coming out with Tucker Carlson in these 40,000 hours of footage. It's amazing to see that there's just people walking around as if nothing was happening. Nothing whatsoever. It completely contradicts the whole narrative of what we just saw for 2 years. Not saying that there wasn't those vandalizing idiots, trying to watch my language, destroying property. Again, they should go to jail. The vast majority did not. They did it peacefully, but the footage they try to show us, try to push a narrative, utilizing outliers, contradict something because they want to push a certain something else so that Joe Biden and other people can get in office and they can have a Democratic blue wave, even though we're supposed to have a red wave and all these things. Well, this prompted Ben Shapiro, as you would imagine, to talk about this as well. The very footage that we just saw. Let's hear his opinions on all of it.
To throw Donald Trump off of all social media. It was to paint all Republicans as rioters, as people who were involved in criminality. As it turns out, even a huge majority of the people who were at the Capitol and in the Capitol that day were not, in fact, rioters. And then it became the global pretext for the attack on democracy routine from the globalized left. Basically, anytime a right-winger would win an election anywhere globally, it turned into, this is just like January 6th. It's an attack on democracy. And what needs to happen is that we need to stop the right-wingers who are complicit in January 6th. January 6th became the rallying cry. And what you heard from the left is that January 6th was just as an important inflection point in American history as, for example, September 11th, when 3,000 Americans were murdered at the Twin Towers and at the Pentagon. What we heard is that all of American politics had to be recapitulated around this signal inflection point, this signal moment in American history. Well, as it turns out from a lot of the footage, the media accounts were in fact exaggerated. Now, again, this does not mean there wasn't a riot at the Capitol building. It doesn't mean the police officers weren't attacked. We saw all of that footage. But what the footage that Tucker showed last night showed is that some of the narratives that we were told were just flat out wrong. They were flat out lies, in fact, because if members of the January 6th committee saw the footage and then they said these things, it turns out that some of those things were not true. And that is a serious problem because, again, the same people who are out there claiming that conspiracists are becoming more common. Oh my God, conspiracy theories, they're flying wild. You know, it's a great way to feed conspiracy theories. A great way to feed conspiracy theories is to lie to people and then hide footage from them for 2 years. And then finally, when the footage emerges, it turns out that there's some pretty significant details that should have been mentioned in the coverage of January 6th.
God, it sounds a lot like COVID-19, the Wuhan lab leak. Remember how we couldn't even talk years about that for literally years, and we would get removed or deplatformed by big tech companies or censored or throttled, whatever it may be. There's a lot of people that subscribe to this channel. We have almost 33,000 people subscribed, and we barely get any views because a lot of us know what's going on behind the scenes here. We're being throttled big time. Big time. So hit that like and subscribe button. Leave a comment down below if you can. Again, hit that join button. Join us here so we can grow our membership. We can grow our base. The Bald Brad Show, push conservative thought and narratives out there to new viewers who haven't seen our content or our channel. But clearly we need it, folks, because we can't rely on these media outlets or our politicians do their damn jobs correctly, because look at what we're facing now. A bunch of truths are coming out where, oh, well, the government's being taken over. Look at these insurrectionists. As there's freaking people just walking around. Officers are escorting people into different rooms. If you really thought the government was being taken over, wouldn't you have at least been running around, looking a little bit more frantic, other than hands in the pocket, having a cool conversation with Capitol Police? You had people in there taking selfies. It looks like you had reporters in there as well, taking photos of people. Like, it's so crazy here. Luckily, we have Ben Shapiro speaking some sense. Hopefully one day we could join the man and his level of speaking sense here from the Bald Bride Show and from our platform.
And two things can be true at once, as I'm very fond of saying. One, January 6th, the actual riots were really bad. They made America look terrible. They were predicated on a falsehood, which is that, again, the election was capable of being overturned by Mike Pence in the Senate or some such nonsense. There was no actual legal theory that held that and that was credible in any real sort of way. That can be true. And at the same time, it can be totally true that the media decided that January 6th was the most important thing that had ever happened in American history. And they were going to use this each and every day. And that the Democrats were going to use this going forward into 2022 as the basis for their election. And in 2024, they plan to use this again as the basis of their election. Both of those things can be true.
I have kind of a conspiracy theory for myself here, because I'm a Trump supporter. All of you are Trump supporters. I'm sure if I asked every single one of you right now going, would you have stormed the Capitol if you were there? I would imagine, for those that are sane, would say no. I would never have stormed the Capitol. I know if I was there, I'd be like, what the hell is going on? What are you guys doing? This is insane. What I think, and a lot of you think as well, because there has been footage and pictures of FBI agents and certain agents out there pushing something, telling people to go into the Capitol. I also think there was people that were dressed up as Trump supporters, weren't actually Trump supporters, and trying to antagonize the crowd and the mob to go in there and do certain things. How do I get that and come to that conclusion? We saw that with the riots and everything going on with George Floyd, Trayvon Martin. I mean, it's been going on for years and years of Antifa dressing up as Trump supporters or conservatives or Tea Party members and going out there committing violence and ultimately creating riots out of the very violence that they started in the first place. So there's been time and time again where people have dressed up and masqueraded as someone else and started the whole thing. So for all I know, they weren't actual MAGA supporters, that some of them that vandalized things. They could have very well been Antifa, Democrats, independents, or something else. Who the hell knows? We don't have anything because they withhold so much information from us. Who the hell knows? And the stuff that they didn't withhold from us, they were lying about. That's kind of what Ben Shapiro's talking about here. There's two narratives. Both could be true, or one could be false and the other one can't. It just depends what the narrative was that we're looking at.
It can be true people did bad things. It can also be true, and criminal things, and some of the people who are in the Capitol building actually did deserve to go to jail. It can also be true that some of the people who are in the Capitol building were basically let in by the cops, and that the media decided that the threat to democracy was far graver than what actually happened on January 6th. Remember, we were told that democracy was nearly overthrown on January 6th. That was nonsense. The building was clear within 2 hours, and the Senate was moving forward with the business of certifying the election, led by a Republican Senate Majority Leader, Mitch McConnell, and a Republican Vice President of the United States, Mike Pence. So the idea that democracy was ever in serious threat because of droogs and idiots breaking into the Capitol building and a few of those people running around and threatening violence and shouting in the halls without, by the way, firearms. I mean, again, we were told this was an armed insurrection. Armed would actually imply that there were, firearms on the premises. And as it turns out, the only person who was shot and killed that day was an unarmed rioter, Ashley Babbitt, by a police officer.
Which we saw the footage of. And what's interesting is that was the only person that died on the Capitol, I believe. Everybody else that did pass away, like police officers, was off-site. It was never at the Capitol. But the Democrat Party and the progressive left and the media outlets sat there and pushed that whole thing. So Democrats and the liberal media are going after and trying to cancel Tucker Carlson right now. I mean, Fox News is literally being sued as well because of the election. So because of the dramatic and previously unseen footage of the Capitol riot, yes, you heard me correctly, they're going to try and cancel and actively are trying to do so on Carlson. So he released this on Monday. Today is Thursday. The Capitol News Channel, rather cable news channel, most highly rated show, Tucker Carlson Tonight, aired the footage Monday night showing people, including so-called the QAnon Shaman. Tucker Carlson showed undermined the kind of narrative that he was running through the halls of Capitol building, knocking people over and beating their brains out in order to to the main room of the Capitol and sit behind the desk and then hanging from the ceiling. So again, this is what Ben Shapiro was saying on the idea that there are certain narratives being pushed, and that was one of them, that this guy was a lunatic, which I think there is some conversation to be had that he's a little nutso for doing what he's doing, because it's very idiotic to dress up like that and act that way, very childish. But Ben Shapiro is still not wrong in the sense of what the Democrats are pushing, what their main theme was, and really what their end goal was. Their end goal was to try and label and characterize a group of people, meaning Trump supporters, as being bigots, insurrectionists, anti-democracy, trying to take over the Capitol, the Senate, and ultimately remove and redo the election, basically. However you want to phrase it, they would have thrown that into the bucket or the basket of all the nonsense they were throwing at us for the last 2 years. Well, this has prompted Joe Biden to come out and condemn House Republicans. He did this yesterday for allowing Fox News host Tucker Carlson to access and air previously unseen footage of January 6th that showed police officers appearing to stand by passively as people poured in the Capitol. You know why he doesn't like this? Because it shows the truth. And the Democrat Party doesn't like the truth, especially after 2 years. I'm telling you, darkness does not like the light, folks. Evil does not like the light. And Joe Biden is evil. He is very, very evil. The rebuke from the president came in response to an internal memo from U.S. Capitol Chief Tom Manger, who criticized Tucker Carlson tonight for broadcasting some of the video and commentary he claimed was offensive and misleading. It's always offensive. Everything's offensive, right? Quote, more than 140 officers were injured. Okay, what does that injury mean? How did they get that injury in the first place? This happened on January 6th, of which we just saw. Quote, I've said before, how dare anyone diminish or deny the hell they went through? I stand with the Capitol Police. I hope House Republicans feel ashamed for what was done to undermine our law enforcement. Again, this was from Joe Biden, the guy who probably couldn't even stay awake to watch 40,000 hours of footage. Carlson and his team received, again, exclusive access to the security cam footage from Speaker Kevin McCarthy, and he opted to disclose for the sake of transparency and to counter the basically the politicization that he believes fostered or was fostered by Speaker Nancy Pelosi of the time. Some Republicans have been supportive of Speaker, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, thanked McCarthy for the disclosure as it may have helped some of the January 6th defendants in their cases. Still, Democrats and other Republicans have expressed their dismay with the agreement. I don't know what it is, and maybe somebody can let me know in the comment section or the live chat right now. What's the big deal about giving Tucker Carlson the footage? I don't understand what is it because he's part of Fox News and he's right wing, and it was generally right wing people that infiltrated the Capitol. Like I'm just confused here as what's all the hubbub about that we actually get our eyes on something. It just shows you both on the Democrat side and the Republican side how corrupt everybody is and how much they're trying to hide from us. But we're supposed to trust government. That's one of the big things the Democrat Party love. They just want to give everything and more power to the government. The same government that's been hiding 99.9% of what actually took place on the Capitol on January 6th from all of us. So now we actually get to see the footage, and now they're pissed about it and trying to cancel the guy that just released the footage and just said, hey, this is what took place. Here you go. The guy was chauffeured around like a VIP by Capitol Police, which is odd because we were told that the government was being ran over. We were told that people were burning down the building. We were told that these insurrectionists were trying to take over and return the election back to Donald Trump and all this nonsense. All the while, literally, the Senate was up and running before and it was up and running after. Ted Cruz was literally on the floor of the Senate proposing going after election fraud, or at least auditing it and seeing what was going on and behind the curtain and under the hood. And it was the January 6th riots that stopped that. It was the January 6th events that stopped senators from agreeing with Ted Cruz, of which he had agreement on before the riots. After the riots took place, they went back on the floor and didn't want to push anything through. Quote, it was a mistake, in my view, for Fox News to depict this in a way that's completely at variance with what our chief law enforcement officer here at the Capitol thinks. That comes from Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, because he's just always so trustworthy. Officials have said about 140 police officers were assaulted in clashes with people at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. In addition, 4 police officers were who defended the Capitol on that day later committed suicide. However, only people who were a part of the crowd died on the day of the breach, including Ashley Babbitt is her name, after being fatally shot by a Capitol police officer. So, look, they're going to push a narrative. They're going to continue to push a narrative. Even if we see the footage ourselves and we verified it for ourselves, what we're actually seeing, they're going to tell us something totally different. That's what they're going to push. And you've already seen that preemptively from the Biden administration going from MAGA supporters, now we're ultra MAGA, we're extremists. There's a fringe group of the Republicans. There's a fringe group of MAGA supporters that want to sit there and destroy democracy and be a threat to democracy, all this nonsense. You want to know what a threat to democracy is? Hiding footage from the American people. There's no reason as to why some of that footage can't be released. There's no reason. Some of it, sure, maybe there's certain schematics, there's maybe certain areas of the Capitol building that you don't want to disclose, you don't want our enemies abroad to know about, whatever it may be. I get that aspect, but out of 40,000 hours, you can't even release half of it. I find that a little bit nonsense. I think there's a message they're trying to push. I think there's a lot of people in high places in the government that don't want Donald Trump back in office because he's the man that speaks on behalf of the American people. And the government, in my opinion, likes to go against the American people a lot of times. They want to be bigger, they want to be stronger, they want to be more powerful, and they want to reign over you. And that's the objective of the government, is to get so big at some point to where you can't defend yourselves. They get so big where they want to remove your rights. They want to get so big where you have no longer freedom of speech. They want to get so big that you can't actually protect yourselves and your family, both from foreign, abroad, and domestic, in terms of having the right to bear arms, having the right to the Second Amendment. I mean, how many times have they talked about removing our rights or chiseling them away? And they go, oh, well, you'll still have a right to bear arms. You'll still have a right to speech, but you can't say hate speech. What's hate speech? Well, I don't know. You just can't say things I don't like. Well, that might be everything. You know, oh, well, you can't have semi-automatic weapons. Well, that's like every weapon out there. Yeah, but you can't have them. Why don't we start with the AR-15? Well, how's that going to stop mass shootings? Well, it's an ugly gun and it's bad because all mass shooters choose that gun. Well, a lot of shootings happen with handguns. So shouldn't we get rid of handguns? Oh, well, we'll talk about those next. We'll start with ghost guns. It's always trying to chisel away at your right to bear arms. And now Joe Biden just wants to get rid of all semi-automatic weapons, regardless of if you're a law-abiding citizen or not. So this is what they're trying to do. They have a narrative, and the narrative is to take all your rights away at some point. Not now, maybe not in 50 years, maybe not in 100 years. But I believe in hundreds of years, maybe 150 or so on. Who knows? It might be shorter, it might be longer. Their objective is to remove your rights, gain all the power they can so that they can become an authoritarian or a totalitarian or some sort of government out there that sits there and reigns over all of you. Every government has gone usurpacious on its citizens. It's only a matter of time right now, I believe, before that happens with our American government, unless we rise up as patriots and do everything we can with our rights of freedom of speech and the right to bear arms right now to sit there and put out the message going, we need to sit there and reevaluate everything, look at everything very clearly, whether that's Fox News, MSNBC, heck, even here on the Bald Brad Show. We need to evaluate everything we're listening to and hear and see if it's trustworthy and true. The problem is the Democrat Party and the progressive left, no matter what we say, it's all nonsense. No matter what we say as conservatives or Republicans, it's conspiracy theorists. You're literally hearing that messaging from the White House, from Karine Jean-Pierre herself, which we cover here each and every week. Well, folks, let me know what you think about all this. When we release more footage here from Tucker Carlson, we'll make sure we give our commentary and cover it all. But look, there were outliers. There were some idiots that went inside the Capitol, did some vandalism. They shouldn't have done it. Other people were walking around, chatting with officers, having a grand old time, taking selfies, taking photos of the place, having a nice little tour. That's all it was. But the mainstream media and the progressive left are going to sit there and make it seem like it's something that it wasn't. And they're going to continue to push that all the way up until the elections. So we'll see what happens with it. Make sure you join the tab down below. It's $4.99 a month, folks. You are supporting. You know where your money's going, folks. It's going to conservative thought and ideas, getting out there to new viewers who haven't seen our content or our channel, to grow the Republican Party, to make America great again. We got to have a voice to do it, and you're that voice. Support a patriot, folks, and I'll see you tomorrow here on The Bald Brad Show.